And how you doing? How you living? How you feeling, folks? Back for another episode of the Bases Loaded podcast. Now, of course, I'm your host, Idiot Number Zero. My name's Zach. Back as always for another show on the Idiots Podcast Network. Vibes. So with that being said, we're going to keep hopping along on this, divisional series, going through each team, kind of previewing what we think, how their free agency went, what this team might look like opening day. Now, of course, there are still some pending big name free agents. We did talk about them in a previous episode. I do recommend you go check that one out. Me and old buddy of mine were able to get back together and have a lot of fun with that. So I do highly recommend you check that out. I believe that's episode number 17. But to keep this episode rolling, we're just going to move right along. And, we're going to talk about the NL West this episode. A very exciting division. I think they have one real big bad, but it's going to be interesting for this division. Now, the first team we're going to talk about is going to be the San Diego Padres. Now, the one thing I would definitely define this team as is mid-city. I don't think this team is really anything all too special anymore. Now they still do have some pieces in terms of Machado, and Bogaerts is a phenomenal player. Fernando Tatis is a great player. Jay Cronenworth has had some decent years, but I think once you start getting towards the back end of this lineup, you just realize how ugly it is. Now, they really are a team that's in dire need of a true DH. I think that would really help this team just fortify and really look halfway decent, but they just don't right now. Now, we're going to see Luis Capisanuso. Yeah, that's as good as it's going to get. He's a young rising catcher coming up through the system, drafted by the Padres, 25 years old. I think he's at a little pop last year, 16 home runs, batted .261 through about 500 at-bats. That's pretty decent. Guy had a halfway decent year. Now, I think he's going to be able to get better. I think we're going to be able to watch another good young potential catcher start really just contributing to his team. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But outside of these top four guys between, Tatis, Cronenworth, Bogaerts, and Machado, I think it's just a little rough. We look at Jurickson Profar. He's not necessarily a great bat. Jose Azcar, Matthew Batten, even Ha-Seong Kim. I wouldn't argue that all these bats are necessarily phenomenal. So I think just in terms of the RBI getting department, they might have some issues this year. But, they didn't really fortify anything in the lineup. They did go out and get a couple bench pieces in terms of bats. And, one of them is Kyle Higgyosha. So Higgy's not a bad guy, but he's a great defensive catcher, if anything. We see Oscar Mercado getting picked up, a halfway decent outfield depth spot guy. So that's not bad. Now, in terms of pitching, their starting pitching is just light. Having Pedro Avila and Randy Vasquez kind of rounding out your rotation is rough. Now, I know they're younger guys. You're kind of seeing what they got, but I just personally am not a fan, and I don't think that this really did enough, especially for what they did with their bullpen, to make this team worthwhile. Now, picking up a guy like Michael King, putting him in your starting rotation, I believe he was a reliever for the Yankees for a while. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments section, but Michael King's going to be an interesting start for them. We've seen Yu Darvish get a little bit worse and worse with age, entering his age 37, going on 38 season. So I could see him potentially getting the boot at the trade deadline, maybe moving to a contender. And of course, I like Joe Musgrove, but there's just not a lot to that starting rotation outside of Joe Musgrove. Now, I'm personally a big Yu Darvish fan, and I don't know exactly how great Michael King is. I just think, it's gonna be interesting for this team. Now, I'm gonna quickly pull up Michael King just because I want to see what this guy got. I really did think he was a reliever for a while, and to my surprise, he really was a reliever for the most part. He did have 100 innings last season. First time he surpassed 100 innings in his career. Normally sits about that, I would say about 55 mark. He's been a decent reliever, pretty young. But transitioning guys from that bullpen to the starting spot has been tough in the past. They were able to do it with Lugo last year to some success, so I give them a lot of credit there. But to do it again is going to be difficult. Now, with that being said, they did go out and do a lot to this bullpen. They really wanted to redesign this bullpen. I think they did a very good job of that by picking up two foreign guys, UK Matsui, who I think is going to have a lot of success and really fight for that closer role, and Woo Suk Go, guy that came over from the KBO League. He's had a lot of success over there, so I'm very excited to see these two young guns kind of just get it going, see what they have to offer in the league. And I really do think that these two guys are going to be very detrimental to this team. Or not detrimental, Jesus Christ. I think they're going to be a very big positive force for this team moving forward this year. I just really think they've had a lot of career success over in Japan and Korea, and I don't know exactly how easy it is to transition from those Asian leagues over to America, but I'm going to be very excited and definitely watching them. And then they also picked up Wandy Peralta, a lefty from the Yankees who had an unbelievable amount of success. So they really did fortify this bullpen. It looks pretty solid to me. But some of my big issues are, you did a lot to the bullpen, but I don't think it did enough everywhere else. So that's my one big thing with the Padres right now. It just felt like they were sellers, but I think I don't know. I think they're gonna be rough. But with that being said, if they were to go out there and pick up another big name free agent, I could see it happen. I could see them going out there and going, hey, we're going to go try and make a run at Cody Bellinger, see if we can get him to play in the outfield. Maybe they make a run at JD Martinez or a different style DH, but I really do think they could use another bat in that lineup, just something to get that team going. Now, with that being said, their win-loss total, it's up at 100, it's up at 81.5 wins. And I'm actually going to take the under on this team. Excuse me. I don't think they're going to hit 81.5 wins. I know that doesn't seem all too high, I really do think they're going to be a sub 500 team. I personally hate the pitching, and they're a Joe Musgrove injury away from having no starting pitching. So, that's just something that's a little scary to me if I was a Padres fan going into this season. Now, with that being said, we're just going to move on to the next team here, and that's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Los Angeles Dodgers are definitely the winners of free agency. They went out there, they picked up the two biggest names in Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So congratulations to them. But at the same time, fuck the Dodgers. Hate those guys. Fucking my Mets over. We tried to get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but they didn't screwing us over with their good team and quality organization. But to actually start talking in this team in all seriousness, really everything is just unbelievably impressive from top to bottom. Everything you look at, this team is phenomenal. I mean, they have future Hall of Famer, I'm not Shohei. I'm going to say future Hall of Famer Freddie Freeman and potential Hall of Famer Mookie Betts, two guys who've had unbelievable careers up to this point. So I'm going to be very excited to see how they keep playing moving forward. And they have a bunch of quality role players like Max Muncy, who's able to hit 30 home runs, They picked up Teoscar Hernandez, another big bat to the lineup. Max Muncy, Will Smith, a great catcher. And we even saw a great season out of James Outman, their center fielder last year. And I expect them to get a good chunk out of Gavin Lux moving forward. A guy who plays shortstop for them was injured last year, but I think is going to have a lot of success, as he's really going to get his feet underneath him. So with that being said, Dodgers, their bench, it's good enough. They got Chris Taylor, one of the ultimate util guys in the league. So now we're going to move on to their starting rotation, and I think their starting rotation is definitely the most interesting part to this team right now. So I say that because, they go out there, they pick up Yoshinobu Yamamoto, they pick up Tyler Glasnow, they retain Clayton Kershaw, but they also have so much more. Now, I know they go out there, they pick up James Paxton as a depth signing. I don't think it's a bad idea. You really only need him to get, potentially 60, 70 innings out of him, and you'll be content. But I think that back end of your rotation right now is a little rough. I do love Bobby Miller at the 3-hole right now. A very young guy coming up through the Dodger system, has had a ton of success, flame-throwing righty. So I'm very excited to see how Bobby Miller progresses, but they just have so many injuries in their starting rotation. Currently Clayton Kershaw is listed as on the injury report just because he had a shoulder surgery as of the 3rd of November. So just so you guys know. But between him, Gonsolin, Walker Buehler, who's now going to be 2 years removed, Tommy John, and Dustin May, I think those 4 guys, really just getting their arm back in working shape and throwing them back in the rotation. If we can get those players back in full form, we might even see Bobby Miller get pushed to the bullpen, which is unbelievable how stacked this rotation is. But I think this rotation just gets better and better as the year goes on. We see more of these phenomenal pieces get added back into the rotation. So they didn't really do all too much in the bullpen, though. Bullpen was pretty much left to be. And honestly, I don't hate it. I like Ryan Yarbrough there. He's a quality lefty. Blake Tried didn't really get any playing time last year, I believe, due to injury. So I'm going to be intrigued to see how he does again. Then let's not forget about Joe Kelly. We've seen a lot of success out of Joe Kelly. And Brusdar Graterol, rather young guy, was actually a starter coming up to the organization, but has become a reliever and a very quality one at that. So awesome that we see Brusdar Graterol in that role. And then we also see Evan Phillips, current closer for the team, had a great season last year. So I think if anything, they might run into some trouble in terms of their bullpen. They just have some names that might be a little shaky for some people. Maybe they go out there, pick up one more piece. I thought a Liam Hendricks type arm would have been perfect for them just to round out free agency. But regardless, they're still winners of this free agency pool, even if they don't get back JD Martinez. Well, there's no reason for them to. So, with that being said, the Dodgers are currently at 103 and a half wins. That's their win-loss total. I think they're going to be under 103 wins. I think this team's somehow going to win 100 games, but stay under 103. And I say that because their starting rotation is so rough right now. I think it's going to be a little interesting early in the season. Obviously they have such amazing bats that it might not matter, but I think if anything, that pitching might be a little slow in the beginning of the year. We might really progress towards just a solid 100-win Dodger team. So now we're going to move on to another NL West franchise, and that's going to be the San Francisco Giants. Now, the Giants, if they're going to make me put, the way I feel about this team in the words, it's just, it's just so Now, as Fangraphs slowly loads up my roster, I'll tell you why I think it's so Now, I don't mind the signing of KBO star Jung Ho Lee, 25-year-old center fielder. I expect him to have some decent success in the league. I'm excited to watch him play. We did see a storm of foreign guys enter the league this year, so I'm very excited to see how that turns out. But they really didn't add anything to the lineup. We see Thairo Estrada's, a solid guy. They went and picked up Jorge Soler, who had a decent season last year. Personally, a guy I wouldn't have went out and signed, but someone that clearly, helps that lineup out. They have a ton of lefties, ton of righties. They have a good amount of balance, but I just don't like the Giants roster. I don't like this team. I mean, it just seems to be full of guys who get the job done to a extent. Like, this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a bunch of contact guys and one power hitter that hits at about a 230 average all season long. And, Conforto can be decent. I want to see what he has in the tank. That's another guy I would like to see, if he was ever going to be what we all thought Conforto was going to be. And then it's rough everywhere else. I don't like Mike Yastrzemski. I don't think Wilmer Flores is that great. They have Patrick Bailey, a catcher that's come up through the system. They're hoping he's going to pan out more so than, I forgot what their last catcher was. They had another big catcher, Joey Bart. They're hoping he pans out better than Joey Bart did. So we'll see how that rolls. But in terms of their lineup, I just think their lineup's a little atrocious. Just doesn't seem to have enough to get the job done to me. Now, as we say that, I want to move on to their starting rotation. I think their starting rotation's a little bit more fun now. They do have some injuries, and this rotation is going to get significantly better with time, but for the meantime, we'll talk about it as it lies. So I like Logan Webb at the top. Logan Webb's a solid guy. He'll get you a ton of innings, quality pitcher. Jordan Hicks, they picked him up this offseason. I like that signing. I think he's another starting pitcher that's just going to add a lot of value to this team, be a solid 2-3 guy. But the rest of the guys they have in this rotation are fairly young, kind of more or less prospects between Keaton Winn, Tristan Beck, and Kyle Harrison. So I don't necessarily know how that's going to pan out. I don't know enough about them to make a general statement, but that never makes me feel good when, you have a solid guy or two and just some pieces that might pan out. You got a lot of question marks. But I will say, Alex Cobb coming back off a hip surgery and Robbie Ray coming back off of Tommy John. If you're not going to be able to get Ray this season, I could get that, but maybe get him later in the season. But getting those two pitchers back and getting them back into the rotation, I think adds so much value to this team. It really helps this team get up and going and just, maintain a quality team. I think this is a team that this Giants roster is the type of roster I could see making a wild card. They have everything they need. They have solid pitching if they can get some of their guys back off of the IR. They have a very good bullpen, which we have yet to get to. And although I don't like their lineup, they're able to hit the ball. And I think that goes to say something, as I've seen the Mets, not be able to hit with runners in scoring position and how that can just kill a franchise. Now, we'll get into their bullpen. They went out, they didn't really do all too much. They picked up Amir Garrett and they picked up Ethan Small. Now, I think those are smaller adds. Get two more lefties in the pen. I don't mind that at all. I think that's quality, but really the guys they've already had is really the stars of the show. They have the Roger brothers and Tyler and Taylor. They also have Camilo Duvall, who had an unbelievable season last year, a very young closer with unbelievable, flame throwing action on that fastball. So I'm excited to see him back in action. And I don't mind this bullpen at all. I think it's a decent bullpen. It's hard to have a shitty bullpen going into the year, unless it's god awful. It's not bad. You got to kind of figure out what that bullpen's going to look like moving forward. But I don't mind the Giants. I think the Giants they're just a funky looking team now. Their current win-loss totals at 81.5, and I could see them getting to 81.5. I think they're going to be like an 82 and 80 team. That just feels very very Giants to me. It's very much the way those San Francisco Giants like to operate. They always feel like they have a very wacky, weird franchise, and they just figure a way to make it work. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to our next team, and that's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had an unbelievable playoff run last year. I really wish they were able to go and win the World Series, but that just did not happen. Fortunately, though, we were able to see this team has a ton of potential. Now, of course, they still have guys like Ketel Marte, guys who we thought were going to be the Corbin Carroll. But now we have Corbin Carroll, a guy who's been unbelievable, setting rookie steal records. I've never seen a guy get 54 steals his rookie year and hit 25 home runs, bat 285. I mean, he was phenomenal. So that was a great, signing, and at the same time, great drafting. So good for them. Now, they didn't do a ton this season in terms of bats, but the moves they made, I really did enjoy. Now, they went and added Lourdes Gurriel Jr. That was a great pickup. Now, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. They already had him. They re-signed him. So I don't think that was a bad pickup at all. That was a nice re-sign, get a quality outfielder in there. That always helps to shore up the corners. They also went out and picked up Eugenio Suarez, a guy who's been able to play the hot corner and shortstop, be able to hit for power and play with some consistency. I know he has a firearm over there, so he'll be able to rifle that ball over to Christian Walker for effective outs in the field. I think that was a great pickup for them. And they also went out and picked up another lefty bat in Joc Pederson. They needed another lefty bat in this lineup, a real pop lefty bat. And Joc Pederson's going to be an awesome guy to help protect Christian Walker and Eugenio Suarez. So I think that's going to just add a lot to this team. Now, some of the younger guys we get to see just step up and play is going to be Alek Thomas and Gabriel Moreno. Those two guys, they haven't hit their Corbin Carroll stride yet, but I think we're going to see Gabriel Moreno really come into his own this season, really just be able to, get a true full season's worth of catching in and show us that he's, the next big thing. So I'm excited to see how that pans out for them. I really do like that lineup. I think it's just a lot of quality there, something you don't get from every team. And yeah. Now, what I will say is the one thing that I describe this team as is just being one starting pitcher away. Now, the reason why I say that is because, I love Zach Gallen. I think Zach Gallen was a phenomenal trade, that when they went out, traded Jazz Chisholm for Zach Gallen. I think they've won that trade as to this point. They also have Merrill Kelly, a guy who's had a lot of success with this team, has played in the World of Baseball Classic for Team USA, so I love that. They also went out and picked up Erod. Erod's been a quality arm for a long time, so that was an awesome pickup. I like those three guys. You have a nice little setup for your first three starters. Now in the back end, you have Brandon Pfaadt, who I personally don't mind. I know you want to see him develop a little bit more at the age of 25, but I don't know how much more time with this type of roster you want to let this guy sit and develop. And same thing with Ryan Nelson. I think you might run into a similar issue there, but going out there signing a guy like there was one dude from Milwaukee I really loved this year, and I can't remember his name. But maybe they pick up a guy like that. I don't know. I think this team really is just one more halfway decent starting pitcher away from just really making me feel so confident in their ability to get back into the playoffs and really make a World Series run. Now, with that being said, they didn't really do much to the bullpen. Another team that kind of was very okay with what they had, and I'll say they didn't need to add anything. I don't necessarily love Joe Mantiply being your number one lefty with Andrew Southbank, but we'll see how that goes. Now, they do have some decent arms in there, between, Kevin Ginkel, Miguel Castro, who's excuse me, again, I've been up and down and up and down. And we also see Paul Sewald, the former Met, in there, with Miguel Castro. Paul Sewald had a ton of success last year. A guy who's been pretty good in his Arizona Diamondback career, so I expect him to have success. But I think this pitching might just need a little bit more. But I really do love the additions that Arizona made this offseason. I think that they've done a great job in just really effectively building up an already great team. So, with that being said, folks, they're at a surprising 83.5 win total. And I'm going to be honest with you, folks, I'm smashing the win total. I think they're going to win more than 83.5 games. I could see this being a 92, 93 win team, and that's really where I'm going to place them, as a 92, 93 win team. I think they might be the number one wild card team in their, in the NL, and I really do like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I just think they're one of the most solid teams in the league. Now, with that being said, we're going to have to talk about a very sad and disappointing organization, a team that I just haven't seen have much success in a long time. Now, they did have a little bit of success with a guy getting into the Hall of Fame by the name of Todd Helton, but the Colorado Rockies are just kind of sputtering. They don't feel like they're getting anywhere, like they're moving anywhere or getting any better. So we're going to quickly run through this team. I'll be honest with you, I think it's funny they still have Charlie Blackmon. I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. He's a Rocky for life, but when you have him being your kind of your captain of this team, I'm not all too confident in it. I know Nolan Jones is a rather young guy they want to see explode onto the scene, and he actually had a pretty decent season last year, so I know they're hoping for more out of him. Chris Bryant has just been atrocious since he signed that big money deal, and I like Ryan McMahon. I like him. He plays a solid third, second base, lefty power hitter. They definitely need that, because they just don't have a ton. I mean, they do have a little bit of pop, but it's not hard to have pop up in Colorado. Mile High Stadium, you hit those balls, they just fly. But I'm just not a fan of really what they have going. It's a rough lineup. Maybe we see them trade catcher Eloy Diaz. I know he was a an all-star last year, so I could see them potentially moving on from him. But I just don't think this roster gives you anything. Like, I don't like Brandon Rogers. I don't think he's super duper great. I love Jacob Stallings as a backup catcher, which he is. He's an awesome defender. Just hasn't really been able to get consistent offense. But really, the thing we need to talk about is just the lack of pitching. I know it's hard to pitch up in Colorado, but god damn, these guys are just rough. Like, Kyle Freeland is not great. Cal Quantrill has played a little bit. He's young. He might have some success. I don't know. He's Austin Gomber's nothing crazy. Dakota Hudson's nothing crazy. And, I mean, the only good real starting pitcher they have, I would argue, is, Herman Marquez. And even him, it's a little rough right now. So unless they're going to be able to get him back from Tommy John this season, this starting rotation really has no true ace to it. It's going to be a little rough. Their bullpen is seemingly just as bleak. So rather than waste time here and act like I'm going to enjoy talking about this team, I'm not. I don't like this team. I don't think it's good. I don't think they didn't win or lose free agency, because they didn't lose or gain pretty much anything. So with that being said, I'm excited to stop talking about the Rockies now. This is what we'll do. I had them at 60.5 wins for the over-under. I said, why bother? Because this line is stupid. No reason to even bother. This might be one of the worst teams I've seen in a long time. So with that being said, yeah, that's the NL West. The NL West is a fun division. I think we're really going to see the Dodgers and Diamondbacks pop out like crazy. Maybe we see a surprise Giants team, but I don't know how that's going to float. So we'll see how it goes as the season progresses and, as we get to opening day. Now, with that being said, I really do appreciate you guys coming out, listening, enjoying the show with me. It means a lot. Now go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment. I'm here. I respond, so trust me. Now that if you made it this long in the video, I appreciate your ears for listening. Go have a great day, and I'll see you later, folks.